Welcome, everybody, to Postgame Takeaways with Inside ND Sports. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen, and we're here to share our postgame takeaways from Notre Dame's 49-35 win over USC. Eric, what was your biggest takeaway from this back-and-forth victory in Los Angeles?
Besides the white pants, my biggest takeaway, and how maybe they're suddenly lucky and fashionable. I think it was that this game reminded Notre Dame of the work it has ahead and the talent step up that's going to be in the college football playoff. And there was enough of that to challenge Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame handled it very well. They handled the tight moments very well. They've had few of those in the last couple of months as they put together this 10-game winning streak. And I think this was just a really good game for them to challenge them in a lot of areas.
Yeah, and before I get to my first takeaway, I want to remind our viewers of our Black Friday deal. That's good through Monday night. It's running there at the bottom.
It's Black Saturday and Black Sunday and Cyber Monday.
all in one.
And White Pants Monday.
Use promo code RIVALS24 for 75% off the first year of an annual subscription to InsideNDSports.com. And I've included a link to that deal in the video description below. So I know we have plenty of people here that watch us on YouTube that aren't subscribers over to the site. It's no better time to sign up than to take advantage of this deal. So please do so. My first takeaway was just that Notre Dame's run game continues to be the king. 38 carries for 269 yards and 3 touchdowns tonight. Didn't seem to matter whether it was Jadarian Price or Jeremiah Love or Riley Leonard. Notre Dame was having success on the ground. Price ends up with the most yards with 12 carries for 111 yards. Love with 13 for 99 before he leaves the game with a leg injury. And then Leonard had 12 carries for 50 yards. So just impressed by what those guys were able to continue to do. Offensive line helping set the tone, but just the big runs that Price and Love particularly provided gave some sparks to the offense that needed it, and I think that really won out for Notre Dame today.
Well, I was proud of Billy Schrouth that he survived a name change to Billy Schruth during the broadcast. So some things that were interesting to me was how much USC threw and how successful they were doing it. I mean, Notre Dame hasn't seen anybody in the 40 since Louisville. Louisville threw 41 times. USC threw 49 times today. They had 557 total yards, which is way more than anybody's had against them this year. And yet, at the critical times when Notre Dame needed big plays, that passing game was still making big plays. Leonard Moore, the freshman, had 5 pass breakups. I cannot remember a game where an individual had 5 pass breakups or credited with him. He's suddenly in the top 5 all-time of freshmen in a single season for pass breakups because of those 5. He's at 8 now. The 2 pick sixes, the Christian Gray 99-yarder after he had struggled all game and they were picking on him. And then Xavier Watts looking like an All-American all day with a 100-yard pick 6, also career-high 9 tackles and some other goodies. But Tyler, what stuck out to you on the defensive side, good and bad?
Yeah, I mean, to the point of Christian Gray, just like incredible toughness, I think, like to withstand everything that he was going through and to stay in it and be in a position to not only make that play, but then return it for a touchdown. Like huge kudos to him. People are tweeting at us, and I don't think people said it on our message board, which hopefully that's a sign of smarter people being more informed on our message board. But people are tweeting at me. It's like, bench Christian Gray. It's like, do you realize what Notre Dame has left at the quarterback position?
Yeah.
Like Christian Gray could be on one
for who
out there.
Gary Gray doesn't have any eligibility left. I got one of those references.
So yeah, I mean, Christian Gray struggled. Let's not pretend that he didn't. There's no way to like walk around that. He was not having a good performance, but he recovered when it mattered the most. And that shows incredible mental fortitude. Obviously, he's a talented cornerback. We've seen that before. It wasn't his day until all of a sudden he became the hero at the end. So major props to him. I thought the defensive line wasn't getting good pressure. The pressure certainly influenced the pick six by Xavier Watts late. But I don't think that Notre Dame did enough to pressure USC consistently. And some of that was USC was getting rid of the ball quick. Like if they know they're going to throw it deep on a fade to whoever Christian Gray is guarding, like you don't need a lot of pass protection to make that happen. And they were able to make plays down the field. And USC ran the ball well too. As much as I talked about how good Notre Dame's run game was, USC averaged more per rush with 7 yards per carry. So USC had a good offensive performance, but it still wasn't enough. Sort of flipping the script of the whole season where Notre Dame's defense is the one that's holding strong while Notre Dame's offense is getting it figured out. Whereas today, the offense held strong, and then the defense finally got it figured out at the end to secure the victory.
Yeah. USC had a cosmetic touchdown right at the end that made it 49-35. But in those 6 possessions that preceded that, there was one touchdown. It was on a shorter field. It was a 45-yard drive. But the other 5 possessions were punt, turnover on downs, pick six. So the defense finally did pick it up. But you're right. This was a game that Notre Dame couldn't have won without the offense stepping up. And I thought that was important. What did you think about Riley Leonard today?
Good overall. Certainly, he has 2 of the worst interceptions I've seen from Notre Dame quarterbacks.
He even made fun of himself. He said the guys on the sidelines were saying that the kid from USC could have called a fair catch.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw the video. Riley Leonard made a funny face while he was getting asked about it. That's like he was embarrassed by the play. So he was having some fun at his own expense, and you can do that if you recover the way that Riley Leonard did. I don't know exactly what happened on that play. It seemed like he thought Chris Mitchell was going to come back to the ball, and Chris Mitchell kept running deep, and Riley Leonard underthrew him greatly. But he had some nice throws. Both the touchdown passes to the tight ends I thought were really nice throws. Sort of the game we've been waiting for from Notre Dame's tight ends. Like there's been little bits and pieces here, but today felt like a day where when Notre Dame needed something, it could really go to the tight end, and both with Mitchell Evans and Eli Raridan. So it was nice to see that. But Riley Leonard, I think he made some big plays with his legs as well, but also extending plays and making the right decisions. We've seen some inaccuracy issues, but I thought it was overall a pretty good game by him, and one that Notre Dame obviously needed with the way its offense was required to play, just because the defense was struggling the way it was.
Yeah, going into the playoff, he has the 3rd highest completion percentage in a single season in Notre Dame history at 66.4%. He was 17 of 22 today, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns you mentioned to the tight ends. The 1 interception, which was ugly. It was his 5th of the year, only his 3rd since throwing 2 against Northern Illinois way back on September 7th. He had 50 yards rushing on 12 carries. I think incrementally he's got better, but this is the big question, Tyler. Do you think Riley Leonard is good enough at this point of his development to help Notre Dame win a playoff game?
I think so. I don't honestly. I feel like I have more questions about Notre Dame's receivers than I do about Riley Leonard at this point of the season. I feel like the receivers aren't making enough plays. There's drops. Jaden Thomas had the terrible fumble. And I don't know. It's just they're not getting enough game-breaking plays from the receiver position. So obviously, like those go hand in hand. Like Riley Leonard can only do so much based on the receivers' ability to make those plays, and vice versa. So I think Riley Leonard can, and maybe it's not with his arm, maybe it's with his legs. It's probably a combination of both, but I do think he can do enough to win Notre Dame a college football playoff game, and be a big reason why, because I think he has shown that improvement consistently. And though he may throw an interception here or there, it doesn't seem to sort of compound itself. And that is extremely important that one issue doesn't lead to many more.
If you want to hear more about offensive line play, you can watch the Bob Morton show, which we call Into the End Zone, except I'm in the other box in that one. But we recorded that earlier tonight, right after the game. So let's flip it to the defensive side. USC, I mean, did come in protecting the quarterback pretty well. I think Mayava, he was fearless. I mean, he got hit a few times on some of those long passes. So I was impressed with him. But they're going to see better quarterbacks than him, too, in the playoff. Maybe not in that first game, but at some point they're going to see a better quarterback. So the defense is going to step up or need to step up. My thought, too, Tyler, is, teams are going to throw more against them. I mean, Army didn't even throw 10 times. USC threw almost 50. And if it's just Christian Gray and Leonard Moore, that's a lot of running down the field a long way. And so I think we're going to have to see Carson Hobbs and or Tay Johnson be reliable enough in 3 weeks from now to maybe take a few snaps here and there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I don't know if those guys are there yet.
Yeah.
Because you would like to think that at least Hobbs, because he was healthy, whereas Tay Johnson wasn't, would have gotten more run at this point. But certainly you have time to get ready for that game, but you're not going to have game reps to get him ready for the playoff. So yeah, it's going to be tough. And I think part of USC was willing to just keep trying it. And some teams against Notre Dame, just well, we can't do this, so we're not going to try it. And I think in the playoff, Notre Dame's going to run up against some teams or a team, depending on how many games they play, that will be willing to at least try to press the issue and throw the ball downfield as long as they feel like they can protect their quarterback. So yeah, Notre Dame's going to have to come up with some other solutions, maybe be more creative in some of their coverages to maybe confuse the quarterbacks because Notre Dame loves to play man coverage, and that allows situations where you clearly have an advantage, or it's that your guy is going to be able to make a play on the ball. It's just a matter of not whether he can come down with it. So USC did that with success today, and we'll see what Notre Dame's response for that is, because I think that is something that Notre Dame needs to shore up, and maybe a little bit of a reminder of how bad the quarterbacks are on Notre Dame's schedule this year. Notre Dame has not played very many good quarterbacks this year. Jaden Mayava would be towards the top of that list, and he wasn't USC starter for most of the season. So I wanted to get your thoughts on the aggressiveness from Marcus Freeman again, the fake punt in the first half from his own end. What did you think of the way Marcus Freeman coached this game?
I liked it. It's always easier to say that when it works, but I feel like he knew that fake punt play was going to work. He had a pretty good feel. Tyler Buckner was part of it, threw it to Mitchell Evans. And he has a lot of faith in the defense, maybe not well-founded today, but typically that defense has been able to hold up. And they did. After the Riley Leonard interception, they forced USC into a 4-and-out and punted the ball and a couple of runs. And then the next time Riley Leonard threw a pass, it was the touchdown to Evans. So I can understand. I like the way that Marcus is coaching, even if it's a little over the top sometimes in terms of aggressiveness. I think the team's kind of taken that on. I think I mentioned this on Football Never Sleeps. There were times into these big stage games that Brian Kelly would kind of tiptoe into them. And I think the team was a little timid. And I like the fact that this team is just you know what, if we're going to make a mistake, let's make it 100 miles an hour. And I like that approach. So how about you? What'd you think about that?
Yeah, I think it was I couldn't believe that they did it. USC did not seem to react at all to Tyler Buckner being on the field, which seems to be a red flag in that situation. It's understand.
Well, Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler didn't react to it either. They didn't know who that was.
Well, they won't get fired for not, whereas the USC coach could. It's just like he doesn't line up in the punt in that formation ever. So what? Like it should have been a red flag. Obviously with the Georgia Tech fake when Buckner was in there on that hold, like he's wearing the same number. It's a little bit more excusable to not see that coming. But and you like the design of the play is good where they have all the attention going towards Jeremiah Love because he's that speed guy, and the whole team sort of reacts to that, and he just turns back around and Mitchell Evans is wide open. A couple other special teams notes. James Rendell had a good day, a 60-yard punt there late in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And then Mitch Jeter continues his struggles, missed a 27-yarder. I know, Eric, you had not been as concerned about the kicking game. Is your concern?
I should have been worried sick.
Is your concern level turned up?
I mean, he's got 3 weeks now to heal, but again, I asked Marcus, and he didn't give me a word salad, but he kind of dodged the question. I said, "Is it mental or physical with him?" And he just said, "Hey, he's our best option," and had a lot of confidence in him and stuff. And I did buy into Marty. I mean, he's healthy enough to kick extra points. I realize they're not very far, but I mean,
well, 27-yarder is not very far either.
No, it isn't. But he has been making the extra points. They're 3 of 11 on field goals since his injury. Some of them are his, some of them are not his. But at least they do have some time to play with now. They have 3 weeks before they have to host a playoff game. And then Howard Cross didn't play as far as I could see today.
No, he did not. He did not, and that was I thought he would play. I was surprised.
Okay, I needed you to admit you were wrong too about an injury.
He didn't go, and he went through warm-ups, and he just didn't look right. So it seemed pretty clear that he wasn't going to be able to give them much today. And you would imagine he'll be fine by the playoff. But in terms of injury front, we didn't get an update after the game about Jeremiah Love. We'll see what the prognosis is there. I'm not even sure exactly what the injury is. But certainly that would be noteworthy if he can't play in the playoff game. I would imagine Notre Dame's going to keep that under wraps until after the playoff selection. There's no need for Notre Dame to reveal what Jeremiah Love's situation is in terms of affecting their seeding. Not that I think it should necessarily, but I don't think you don't want to give anyone any reason to doubt. So I imagine Notre Dame's going to try like hell to not let that information out, particularly if it's something that means Jeremiah Love can't play. Maybe if they want to say he's fine, they can say that. But
they could do what Niele Ivey does and say week to week.
Well, that's what the men's basketball program is doing with Marcus Burton as well. So it's a trend on the basketball side. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here, Eric?
Yeah, real quick. Let's look real quick at the playoff picture. Ohio State lost today. Miami lost today. They're out of the ACC championship game, so that's going to be Clemson against SMU. What do you think seeding-wise for Notre Dame? Do you think they'll jump Penn State?
I think they will and should. The committee hasn't shown any give on that so far.
But there is a comparative score now with USC that didn't exist before. Now, Penn State looked good against Maryland, and they will play in the championship game, and that could affect them. They could beat Oregon, or they could lose to Oregon. But I would think
you have to imagine if they lose in the Big Ten championship game, they'll drop below Notre Dame. So the conversation this week isn't that important. So maybe they don't do it to not rock the boat. Or maybe they do it because they don't care, because then they can just move them back up if they win, and if they lose, they've already started moving them down. But
well, there are some different scenarios where Notre Dame now could get to the 5 seed. If Penn State drops behind them, they'll already be at the 5 seed. If Georgia beats Texas, I don't think Georgia would jump Notre Dame, and Notre Dame could end up at the 5. But it looks like they're going to be the 5 or the 6 in the playoff.
Yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it tonight, but yeah, I figured as long as they pass Penn State, they're good. I think it would be if Penn State were to win, then Oregon probably stays ahead of Notre Dame in that scenario. Penn State beats Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. So I think if you're Notre Dame, you're rooting for Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. So that's probably the game that determines what Notre Dame's final seed is, unless Notre Dame goes ahead and jumps ahead of Penn State already this coming weekend.
And not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the second round game then would be likely against either the ACC champion or Boise State in the quarterfinals, which isn't as scary as some of the other matchups.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of crazy that not only Notre Dame has won out, right? Like, that's one thing, that Notre Dame's won out since that Northern Illinois loss. But so much has gone Notre Dame's way in terms of what could potentially be its playoff run, that it's just wild to believe that this is where Notre Dame ends up.
But Tyler and I are checking our budgets to see whether we have to eat at McDonald's or not.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, maybe Notre Dame ends up with a not favorable matchup with some of these teams losing at the end. That maybe one of whoever ends up being the 12 seed is actually maybe more dangerous than you previously thought. But plenty to learn about Notre Dame's future in the coming weeks. But the good thing for Notre Dame is they don't have to do anything. They can sit back and heal up and get ready and learn what the future path is laid out ahead of them.
And don't forget our great Black Friday, Black Saturday, Black Sunday, and White Pants Monday deal here at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, it's promo code RIVALS24 for 75% off the first year of an annual subscription to InsideNDSports.com. That's the best deal we run all year. That'll be all from LA and South Bend. Please hit the subscribe button here on YouTube as well, and give us a like before you close out this video if you haven't done so already. And we want to hear your biggest takeaways from the game as well, so let us know in the comments. And we will see you Monday night for Football Never Sleeps.